Okay, let me show something. See this community post? If you aren't under the law of God, but you don't want gays to marry, I don't trust you. So, I don't think gay marriage is of God. But if you say you don't follow the law of God, and then you turn around and you don't want gay marriage, you're just confused. You're not consistent. You don't even know what you're talking about. You're picking and choosing. You're a hypocrite, in my opinion. So, don't read into my statement. I'm not advocating for gay marriage. I'm not advocating that we're under the law like Paul means it either. But that's a contextual statement. Paul also says he is under the law of God. 1 Corinthians 8. He says he becomes like one under the law to redeem those who are under the law. That means under the covenant, the old covenant. He's talking about Jews that haven't received Messiah. He's talking about winning Jews that are under the condemnation of the covenant, right? Who aren't receiving Messiah, and he's winning them to Messiah. And when he says, I become like one without law, that's those who weren't under the Mosaic covenant, Gentiles. What does he say though? He says, not being without the law, but under the law of God through Christ. Jesus is God. Jesus represents the Father, the Trinity. So if you're a Christian, you are under the law of God through Christ. You're just not under the old covenant, which points you to Messiah. When Paul says all things are lawful, that is a slogan. He is not teaching all things are lawful only to turn around and make that statement in the midst of condemning sexual immorality, which is condemned in the law of God, which is the law of Moses. See, the law is talked about as a covenant, and the law is talked about as instructions from God. Now, is there no distinction? Of course there's a distinction. You're not condemned for not doing animal sacrifices. Gentiles aren't condemned for not doing the things that are for the Jews. That's why they're without law, because that law was never given to them. But yet God would condemn humans that were not Jews for doing immoral acts. Why? Because there is a distinction in the law. And maybe it's not spelled out perfectly, but it certainly means the Ten Commandments, because all of them existed eternally from the very, very beginning of history, according to the Bible, which includes the Sabbath day, which is why cultures had a 7-day week that predate Moses. They had to have known about the creation account, if you believe it's true that God created the world. We know historically, archaeologically, logically, that the 7-day week didn't get made up by Moses when he wrote the books of Moses. They're an account of history. And we know that cultures had a 7-day week, which means they received the weekly cycle from God, because it can't be deduced astronomically or naturally like a day or a month or a year can by paying attention to astronomy. And God saw fit to tell us that he did that he made that day holy from the very beginning. So, if you say you're not under the law through Christ, you're not a Christian. But if you continue to say that and then you pick and choose, I'm not under the law, but gays are under the old law. I'm not. But I don't like gays, so I'm gonna... See, people misunderstand. It's the difference between advocating for something and showing the logical implications of something. Because people are they want to condemn on their own judgment, not the judgment of God. Because they care what men think and not what God thinks. People think, I'm following Ellen White. No, I'm following the scriptures like Ellen White did.